hey, ladies and gentlemen, good news, bad news. The government's not going to shut down, but as the lawmakers unveil a $1.7 trillion bill to avoid shutdown, boost Ukraine. You know, it would be, first of all, thank God.
Yeah. I didn't want to go for the holiday and
without taking care of Ukraine. Wouldn't it be nice? Lawmakers unveil a $1.7 trillion bill to avoid shutdown, boost America. Wouldn't it be nice if they boosted America? Again,
that's socialism.
Again, I don't mind you sending $100 billion to Ukraine. I do, actually. But I'll make a compromise. How about you? For every $1 billion you have to send to Ukraine, you have to send $1 billion to an American city. And they have to use that for homelessness and healthcare. How about that?
No.
So it's a 4,100 page bill. And they asked Chuck Schumer, is this really the way you should be doing this? First, so you know what this tells you, right? Well, here, let's watch.
Schumer, how is it in a functional process to drop a 4,100 page bill this morning, expect to vote on it tomorrow? Well, most of Congress hasn't had a chance to review this.
Look, the bill has been carefully worked on by the Appropriations Committee for a very, very long time. Most of the provision.
So what he's saying is, look, the people who run the country have already figured this shit out, okay? And the vote in Congress is performative, all right? The people who run the country have decided. It doesn't matter if your congressman gets to read the bill or not. Don't be a jerk. This is not how things work. That's exactly what he's saying.
Look, we have 6 ways to fuck you. Remember his?
Yes. He's got more to say.
The bill were well known weeks and weeks and weeks in advance. And getting this bill done.
Hey, you already know what's in the bill, right? It's going to be a shit ton of money for Ukraine. Now shut up.
You knew weeks in advance.
American people, which really matters, is the most important thing. Yes.
That's it. That was his answer. Well, Ron Paul says no. By the way, that's the bill. That's how big it is. This is the bill.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't want to see him read it. I want to see him bench press it. How about that? 4,100 pages. Who wrote that bill? Stephen King?
It looks like The Stand a little bit.
Once you get past the first 2,000 pages, it just says all work and no play makes Chuck a dull boy over and over. I bet it does. By the way, how much of that 1.7 trillion goes into printing the bill? Maybe just don't give out copies and you can save maybe $1 trillion.
Yeah, right. Since they're not going to read them anyway, just save the money.
They're not going to read them.
More for Ukraine.
Here's what Ron Paul says.
When was it produced? In the dead of the night, 1:30 in the morning when it was released. Now
they released it at 1:30 in the morning, and you got to vote on it the next day. A 4,100 page bill.
They don't even want you having a day with it.
Yes.
People argue that it's conservatives' fault. You don't have the Christmas spirit. Somehow you're holding up government. Well, whose job is it to produce this? The people in charge of spending. The people in charge of both of the parties. When did they know that this would be necessary? Well,
he said people in charge of both parties. So again, that's what I just said about Chuck Schumer, saying the people who run the country's already decided. This guy's saying we couldn't even get to vote on it really because we're not going to be able to read it. So yeah, so that's exactly right. Which is exactly why Chuck Schumer and Mitch McConnell are the leaders in the Senate, because they're the most corrupt criminals. Okay.
In the law, September 30th. You got 9 months, almost 10 months to produce a plan.
So they were supposed to produce this budget by September 30th. They didn't. Here we are now, December 23rd or 6th, 3rd. I don't know what it is.
To have a spending plan. They weren't ready on September 30th, so they voted themselves 90 more days. They weren't ready last week either, so they voted themselves another week. And now we have it at 1:30 in the morning this morning. But what's the clamor? The clamor is to vote. Vote now. Let's get it done. Why are you standing in the way of spending? Well, the real question is this. What is more dangerous? What is more dangerous to the country? $1.1 trillion in new debt, or as Republican leadership likes to say, oh, but it's a win. It's a big win. We're getting $45 billion for the military. So which is more important? Which threatens the country more? Are we at risk for being invaded by a foreign power if we don't put $45 billion into the military? Or are we more at risk by adding to a $31 trillion debt? I think the greatest risk to our national security is our debt. The process stinks. It's an abomination. It's a no good, rotten way to run your government. $6 trillion entity, and they want 24 hours to process this, and then they want to go forward. I will be demanding 2 amendments. One, that this goes against the budget rules. The PAYGO rules say you can't do this. You can't have all this new spending unless it's offset. We will also be demanding that the PAYGO rules are increased. Instead of taking 60 votes to evade the rules, we're going to ask that it be a 2/3 vote to evade the rules. The American people don't want this. They're sick and tired of it. They're paying for it through the nose with inflation. Adding $1 trillion to the deficit will simply fuel the fires that are consuming our wages and consuming our retirement plans. It's a terrible system. Someone needs to stand up. We're standing up, and we're going to say no.
So 10 Republicans voted to move it on, the bill to move on. So it is. This guy, Lee Zeldin, says Congress is voting this week on a $1.7 trillion appropriations bill. I will be voting no. We transferred huge sums of money away from Democrats. So this is what Mitch McConnell said. He says, we transferred huge sums of money away from Democrats' spending wish list toward our national defense and armed forces. So instead of spending money on stuff like, a tax credit for poor people or health care, whatever, we took it away from that. We put it where it belongs, back in the Pentagon.
I'll bet the Democrats also, that wasn't really on their wish list.
I know. Thomas Massey says, I'm a no on Omnibus, 4,155 pages, $1.7 trillion, $45 billion for Ukraine. Don't tell me you defend democracy if you support one bill once a year that funds everything, written behind closed doors by a few insiders with insufficient time to read before voting. That's how this country works, ladies and gentlemen.
Last comic standing, the first one, had more integrity than this.
Yes. Here's what Mitch McConnell says about what the priorities are for our government right now. Remember, you have 2.5 million homeless children.
In Ukraine?
Here we go.
Making sure the Defense Department can deal with the major threats coming from Russia and China, providing assistance for the Ukrainians to defeat the Russians. That's the number one priority for the United States right now.
Defeat the
According
Russians.
to most Republicans.
Defeat
That's sort
the
of
Russians.
how we see the
80% of workers live paycheck to paycheck. Half the country can't afford a $400 emergency. Half of all wage earners earn $30,000 or less. People going bankrupt left and right when they get sick. And the priority of the Republicans, as he just said, is to defeat Russia. Defeat Russia? Russia's not doing anything to us. Russia's not doing anything to me. The reason why all those things, the reason why people can't afford medication in America, the reason why people can't afford their rent, don't have a living wage, is it because of Russia? Russians have Medicare for all. It's got because this guy's a criminal and he's corrupt. And he's going to take your tax money and give it to his donors in the military-industrial complex. That's what this isn't, helping people in Ukraine. You know that. You're not a chump. Or a big enough chump to believe that. You want to hear this is what his priorities are.
making sure the Defense Department can deal with the major threats coming from Russia and China, providing assistance for...
The threats are coming from China. China makes all our shit.
What is it?
So if China wanted to cut us off, we'd be fucked.
Are they sending us a boat filled with solar panel materials and threats? This is, by the way, his wife, Chinese national, whose uncle runs a shipping. He's married to like a Chinese national. You know that, right, Mitch McConnell?
Is she? I know she's Asian. I didn't know if she was Chinese.
Yeah, Chinese. He has a connection to some shipping company in China.
To defeat the Russians, that's the number one priority.
Number one
for the United States right now.
That's what you're voting for.
Are we
According to most
them?
Republicans, that's sort of how we see the challenges confronting the country at the moment. Making sure.
Glenn Greenwald says, as Congress prepares to send another $44 billion for the war in Ukraine, totaling $100 billion in just 10 months, it's also about to kick millions of people, millions of Americans, from Medicaid coverage they received during COVID. Guess there's no money for that. No.
Ho,
Hey, Siri.
ho, ho.
How many homeless children in America? It says there are around 1.5 million children, or 1 out of every 50 children in America are homeless.
I said good day, sir. Did you ever see Charlie the Chocolate Factory?
Yeah.
Good day.
1.5 million homeless children. Let's send more money to Ukraine.
Is Ukraine going to fight China for us?
I don't think so. Hey, we're doing live stand-up comedy in Los Angeles, December 9th, 16th, 23rd, and 30th. And we're going to be in Tempe, Milwaukee, Minneapolis, Nashville. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for all those tickets. See you there.